So we are in early labor, and I wanted to share the little movement flow that I'm going to be doing to help create more space within my pelvis, help to support my baby's position, and then also just to kind of get some movement in, because movement can be really beneficial to help bring your contractions a little bit closer together. Right now, contractions, they were 4 to 5 minutes apart after a little bit of movement. Now they're back to closer to 8 minutes apart. And so we are definitely in early labor, which is why I'm able to talk and to even film this video right now. So let's go ahead and get into my early labor workout. So I'm just going to start the workout first by just focusing on my breath and connecting to baby. So really big inhale, and then exhale, just let go. So just really gentle breathing. During my contractions, I like to do progressive relaxation, where I'll start from between my eyes and just kind of walk down my body, kind of telling myself to release and to let go. And so I'm going to do that while I'm doing this breathing. So it'll start with release between the eyes, release in the jaw, let it open, down into the neck, into the shoulders, let them drop, down the back into the hips, let them open, down through the legs and out through the feet. Let this one go. And so I'm not having a contraction right now, but that'll be kind of the little phrase or verbiage that I'll kind of run through during every contraction to help me kind of release and let go of my body. So now that I've had a little bit of breathing, I'm going to move into the MamasteFit Birth Prep Circuit, which is going to help to release some common areas of tension during pregnancy and also help to support my baby's position and to release some tension within my pelvic floor as I move through this early labor. The first thing of the MamasteFit Birth Prep Circuit is going to be the forward leaning inversion. So I'm going to come down to my forearms, tuck my chin, and breathe here for 3 full breaths. This is helping to release the lower uterine ligaments, which can help baby get to a better head down position. It can also help them tuck their chin, which is going to help them be smaller as they try to fit through the pelvis. So now I'm starting to have a little bit of a contraction, so I'm just going to stay here during the contraction. And then slowly come back up, extend the hip to kind of let everything settle back in, and let's move into some of the mobility. So the first mobility is going to help me find more of a tucked butt position. So I'm going to do this hip flexor release because we tend to favor a more extended spine position during pregnancy. And so releasing the hip flexors and the lats can be really beneficial to helping you find a more rounded position, which is incredibly beneficial to helping you find that more tucked butt position, which creates more space in the top of the pelvis, front to back, to help baby engage, and also really important to creating space in the bottom part of the pelvis to help baby come out. So I'm going to tuck my butt underneath, push the hips forward to feel this stretch through this hip flexor, and then reach overhead. So I'm feeling this really big side body stretch through all of here. Our birth prep circuit is a free guide. We'll link it down in the notes below as well, so you can grab that. It has video walkthroughs, it has pictures, written descriptions. After the hip flex release, I'm going to move into a lat release. And so with the lat release, I have my hands pushing into the wall. I'm going to step back so my feet are perpendicular. So I'm going to feel this big stretch through my side body here and try to keep my chest towards the floor. So I'm pushing my hands into the wall. Big breath here. Exhale, just release and let go. This is one of my favorite lat stretches. And so again, during pregnancy, we really like to favor extension, so arching in the back. And so releasing the lats and the hip flexors can help you find that more rounded position, which is equally as beneficial to helping your baby navigate through your pelvis. And so we'll do each side. You may find that one side is a little bit tighter than the other. Usually I'm aiming for about 10 breaths per side. So a big inhale, and then exhale, just let go. After the hip flexor and lat release, I'm gonna move into a back expanded breathing drill. This is gonna be the standing one, and so I'm gonna shift the camera a little bit so that you can see. So to start, I'm gonna take like a yoga block or something to squeeze between my thighs. I'm gonna place it between my thighs, and then I'm gonna point my toes towards one another, grabbing onto my supportive structure. It can be like your door frame, it can be any sort of sturdy pole. And then I'm gonna sit back like I'm trying to sit in a chair. So I find this big round in my back, and then big breath back here. Exhale, pull belly to spine. This should help you sink a little bit deeper into this rounded position. Big breath into your back. Exhale, belly to spine. Aiming for about 10 full breaths. When you inhale, you can also think like the bottom of your pelvis is like spreading sideways. So those movements are helping me find a more rounded position in my back to help baby engage into the pelvis, and also helps to create space in the bottom of the pelvis as well. And so now we're gonna move into 2 movements that help me release some tension within my pelvic floor. So the first movement is gonna be an all fours hip shift. I'm gonna place one knee onto the yoga block, and then I'm gonna shift my weight over to that hip. And so now this back hip pocket here is gonna be more stretched, and it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna find more of a release there. So then I'm just gonna move through some pelvic tilt. Aiming for about 10 pelvic tilts here. Should feel most of it in that back hip pocket, again, of that elevated hips. After about 10, I'm then gonna do some hip lifts. This is not a part of the birth prep circuit, but I like to just add it in because it feels really good. So I'm lifting that knee straight up towards the ceiling and then back down to the floor. And then I'll switch to the other side. So I'm gonna place that block underneath the other knee, shift my weight over, and then begin to move through those pelvic tilts. And so it's important that the weight is in the elevated hip, not as much in the knee that's down on the floor, because this hip shift is what is stretching that posterior pelvic floor, that back hip pocket. And then doing those knee lifts. So lifting straight up and back down. Feeling most of it again in that elevated hip. Next, we're gonna come into a standing hip shift. So I'm gonna place one foot onto the block, and then I'm gonna shift my weight towards that hip as I bring belly to thigh. So upper body is rotating towards my thigh, and then lower leg is kind of rotating inwards. So I have this like counter rotation happening that meets at that hip. Putting lots of weight into that big toe, I'm reaching across the body. Big breath here. Exhale, reach a little bit more. Still feeling it in that like hip pocket again, so similar area to the all fours hip shift. After about 10 breaths, I'm gonna move into a standing variation or like a movement variation. So I'm gonna shift my hips back, and then I'm gonna reach both arms forward, so that I extend in the hip, and then I'm gonna come back into that hip shift. So kind of going back and forth between the two. So again, this movement is helping to release tension within my pelvic floor, create more space in the lower half of the pelvis. Most of us tend to have a little bit more tension in that back half of the pelvic floor, and we may have a little bit of more trouble finding an opening in that lower part of the pelvis as well. So now I'm going to put my other foot onto the block. Same thing, I'm shifting my weight over, reaching across, so belly's coming to thigh, and then I'm thinking almost like this leg is rotating inward. So lots of weight in that big toe, reaching across. Everything is kind of meeting here at this hip. Big breath. Exhale. And then we'll do that movement again. So extend in the hip and then swing the arm back to find that hip shift again. Feeling this primarily in the elevated hip. And that concludes the MamasteFit Birth Prep Circuit that I'm going to start this workout with. Now I'm going to do a few strengthening focused exercises with very, very minimal weights and resistance. I'm going to do primarily body weight and then also just resistance bands just to help me move a little bit deeper into some of these pelvic opening exercises. And I'm going to weave in some mobility with it as well. So for this early labor workout, I'm going to be focusing on creating space in each of the pelvic levels. So there are 3 main pelvic levels. The top of the pelvis is the pelvic inlet. This is where your baby's going to first enter or engage. And this is going to open more with movements like deep squats and wide knees. And so I'm going to start with just some deep supported squats. So inhale to lower down as far as I can. If you need to hold on to something, feel free. And then exhales, I'm coming back up. So I'm just going to be moving up and down, trying to find as much depth as I can with these squats. Again, if you want to hold on to like a door frame, hold on to something sturdy to give you a little bit more support, feel free. You can also put something underneath the heels if ankle mobility is kind of preventing you from getting really deep into this movement. And now I'm going to stay at the bottom of the squat after I did about 10. I actually lost count as I was going, but do what you think is 10. And then I'm going to do a little bit of squat therapy. So I'm going to press the knees apart and then let them come back together. Do about 10 of these. And then we're just going to do one leg at a time. So just pressing one knee out. If you need to, you can press the other hand down on the floor. And then switch to the other side. So you should feel this more in like the groin area. And then I'll finish with some rotations. Just reaching up to the ceiling. Because your ribcage position can influence how well you can create space within your pelvis. Next, I'm going to come to a tabletop position. I'm going to do some pelvic tilts. So feet are going to come together and knees are going to be wide because this helps to create more space in the top of the pelvis. Drop belly down to the floor, feeling more of a stretch in the front side of the body. And then exhale to round, pull belly to spine. These wider knees and pelvic tilting from front to back tends to create more space in the top of the pelvis. So the wider knees creates more space side to side in the pelvic inlet, while that posterior pelvic tilt or tucking the butt underneath helps to create more space front to back. Arching in your back also can help to create some space in the top of the pelvis because it makes external rotation or those wider knees easier to achieve. In addition, it changes the pubic bone angle to make it a little bit easier for baby to enter or engage. So I'm going to move through that whole circuit one more time to help focus on the top of my pelvis, and then I'm going to move to the mid pelvis and then the pelvic outlet. So coming back to those squats, inhale, lower down. Trying to find as much depth as I can. And then stay at the bottom, move through that squat therapy, so starting by spreading the knees apart. And then just one knee at a time. Finishing up with those rotations. And then we'll finish up with those pelvic tilts. So knees are wide, ankles are together, creating more space side to side, and then just moving the spine forward and backwards. So belly to the floor, and then round. The next level of the pelvis is the mid pelvis, and this is where a baby's going to go after they engage, and they're going to rotate through this space. And so we want to create some more asymmetrical opening of the mid pelvis, and so we're going to do that with some open and closed hip positions. The strength movement that I'm going to be doing is going to be a curtsy lunge to elevated lunge, and so I'm going to find my closed hip position, and then I'm going to find an open hip position. So first starting with my closed hip position, step up onto the box, and just kind of lean into it. So the curtsy lunge, I find that closed hip, which opens more of the bottom of the pelvis. And then at the top, I find more of that open hip position to create more space in the upper mid pelvis. And then switching sides. And now I'm going to come to the floor to do a few movements to help release tension within my pelvic floor. So I'll start with this open hip position. I'm going to be focusing on releasing in the right side primarily for me personally, but you can do both sides. So in this half lunge, I'm going to first kind of rotate my belly away from that front thigh and then shift into that hip. I'm going to feel a big groin stretch here and then really focus on keeping my big toe down. And I'm going to extend that leg out for an adductor rock back, rocking back towards my heel, and then coming back up. Let's go ahead and switch sides. So now finding that half lunge position, think belly towards that left thigh or right thigh, and then shift into that left hip, feeling more of a stretch in that upper left groin. Keep that left big toe down. And I'm kind of pressing on that left knee a little bit to help find a little bit more of that open hip position as well. And then finding that adductor rock back on the left side, so leg fully extended, shift back towards the heel, and then come back up. To finish up, I like to do the 90-90. So one leg will be in front, the other leg will be behind. And I'm gonna find a 90-90 side camel. I'll do switches and then I'll do side camel on the other side. So left leg is externally rotated in front, right leg is behind. I'm gonna start by reaching towards that right side for this big side body opener. Bring that hand behind me to then extend in the hip. And then just kind of alternate between the two. I'm gonna do about 10-ish here. So there's no real timers for this workout. So if you're used to following more of a timer, sorry, just kind of switch sides when I do. I'm also losing count, so. And then I'm gonna place my hands behind me to kind of windshield wiper the legs, come back to an upright position, and then alternate sides. So when I come back up, I'm gonna feel a little bit more in that back hip area, like groin area. If you want, you can keep the hands in front of you, which will be a little bit harder. But for me right now, I'm not really looking for the biggest challenge ever. I'm just trying to create some space within my pelvis, release some tension within my hips to make baby have an easier time navigating through. So now I'm gonna do the right side. So right leg is in front, left leg is behind. Find my side body opener, and then extend in the hip. So I'm finding this big stretch in my side body. Hand comes behind, and I feel more of a stretch in that hip flexor. And then I'll do some switches again. The 90-90s have been some of my favorite hip mobility for this pregnancy. And so if I can incorporate them in everything I do, I do. So I'm gonna move through that whole mini circuit one more time, and then I'm gonna move into creating more space in the bottom of the pelvis. Now that I've created some space within the top of my pelvis and the middle of my pelvis, I'm gonna focus on creating more space in the bottom part of my pelvis and also helping to release tension in the back half of my pelvic floor so it's easier for my sacrum to move as well. So I'm gonna start with an archer row, and so this will be like my strength exercise that I'm doing for my birth prep. And so I'm gonna step the right foot back and hold the band in the right hand as well. And I'm gonna row back and shift my weight into the right leg, putting a lot of weight into that right big toe. So coming forward, and then essentially I'm coming into a hip shift, which is releasing and stretching more of that back half of that pelvic floor. So rotate your body towards the right leg, put weight into that right big toe, and then we're just kind of twisting here. You can also do this without the band as well. Or we're just finding upper body rotation to counter the lower body rotation so we can come into that deep hip pocket. And let's switch sides. So I'm doing about 10. Again, I'm losing count, so I'm just doing what I think is 10. But being able to hip shift is really important to creating space in the lower mid-pelvis, which is super beneficial to creating more space in the bottom for baby to be able to finish their rotation. So if we have late labor stalls, it may be related to mobility of the lower mid-pelvis. After about 10, I'm gonna come into a hinge, supported hinge. So point my toes together. I'm gonna shift my hips back to the wall behind me, find a little bit of rounding. And then I'm gonna think breathe here. And as I breathe, I'm thinking these two bones are kind of spreading apart from one another. So we got this big lat stretch here. Feeling the back of my pelvis kind of spread apart. And then I'm going to move to the floor to do some pelvic tilts with more internal hip rotation to finish out this circuit. So to finish out, I'm going to keep my knees aligned to my hips and then just bring my ankles out a little bit more. You can then take a yoga block to sit down to, or you can do it without. I'm going to round in my back and then sit back towards my heels and then coming forward to then arch in the back. If you want to move a little bit deeper, just remove the yoga block. Then I'll give you a little bit more range of motion. Internal hip rotation or knees in with ankles out helps to create more space in the bottom of the pelvis from side to side. And that pelvic tilting helps to create more space from front to back. In addition, making sure that there's space for that sacrum to move. And so a lot of these exercises help to release tension in the back half of the pelvic floor, which can improve your sacral mobility. So I'm gonna move through that whole circuit one more time to help create more space in the bottom of my pelvis. But thanks so much for joining me for my early labor birth prep workout. I did a few strength exercises in addition to mobility exercises to help create space in each of my pelvic levels. And this is something that you can incorporate into the last few weeks of your pregnancy to help you create a little bit more space, release some common areas of tension, and help you prepare for birth. If you want more support throughout your pregnancy, be sure to check out our online prenatal fitness programs and online childbirth education course. We do offer third trimester options as well. Our prenatal fitness programs are offered in an app-based format and as an on-demand based format, depending on how you prefer to work out. The app-based is going to be in the Team Builder app. It's a list of exercises with short demo videos. And this is a great option if you prefer to work out at your own pace, especially if you like to work out in a gym setting or with a barbell. If you prefer to follow a video as you work out at the same time, we do have our on-demand program that is specific to each trimester, in addition to a birth prep standalone program if you already have a workout program that you really like and you just want those birth prep specific exercises. You can check out all of our fitness programs on our website at MamasteFit.com and use code YouTube10 to get 10% off any of our online offerings to include childbirth education. If you're at the end of your pregnancy and you're not really looking for prenatal focused stuff anymore, we also have postpartum support courses and fitness programs as well. So thanks so much for joining me for my early labor workout. I look forward to sharing my birth story on our YouTube channel soon.